Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. This is the session on the doctoral program in educational leadership for social justice. So hopefully you are just right in the room where you intended to be. We're excited to spend some time with you today. My name is Becky Stevenson. I'm the director of the program. I'm joined today by Michaela Cooper, who's the assistant director of the program. And we're really excited to share some information with you and answer questions that you might have about applying and joining our doctoral program. So we will jump right in. I imagine that you've done some reading and some poking around looking at LMU, but just a couple of reasons why we think that you should choose LMU and the doctoral program in particular. First, we're a program focused on social justice, and for many of our students and alums, this is really the key thing that has attracted them to the program. So this focus on social justice shows up in every class and pretty much every assignment that you do throughout the program. So you'll be investigating lots of different aspects of structural inequalities, issues in education that pertain to race, class, gender, sexuality, and identity, all with the intent of training you and teaching you all about social justice and how to be an advocate within education. We take an integrated approach to theory and practice. So most of our students are working professionals. So they may be teachers, administrators, counselors, people who come to us with a lot of experience and knowledge, and we really value that. What we do is add the theoretical lens to the work that you're already doing to give you extra tools in your toolkit to become a better practitioner. We prepare leaders across all sectors, and this is different than many educational leadership programs where it's very much focused either on principals or teachers. We take folks from across PK-12. We also have a growing group of students coming to us from higher education, nonprofits, and community-based education. So while the program is started as a K-12 program only, we've been gradually growing and adapting to be inclusive of folks who are in other contexts as well. What's really exciting and wonderful, the program's been around for almost 20 years now, and we have a beautiful alumni network of superintendents, principals, policymakers, and folks working in nonprofit and community organizations all over Southern California, and expanding beyond that as well. So once you come to the program and make your way through, you join this alumni network. The alumni are very active in the program, offering support to students while they're working in while they're doing their work in the program. We have an alumni council that's starting to plan events and professional development for our students as well. Another reason to choose LMU, particularly for doctoral study, is our record of academic excellence. So we're a highly ranked university. We're in the top 75 of best national universities in the U.S. News and World Report. We're in the top 5 Jesuit universities and top 6 private colleges in California. All of those rankings are because of the folks who are here, our faculty, our staff, and our students. So we have an internationally renowned faculty who are active in research and presenting in the field. We also have a number of centers that are doing research on education. So we have the Center for Equity for English Learners, which is very active in partnership with many of the school districts around Southern California. We have an interdisciplinary STEM center, our Center for Catholic Education, which works closely with the Archdiocese of Los Angeles as well as others, and our LMU family of schools, which is a group of K-12 schools in the area of the university that provide kind of a lab environment for many of our teacher candidates, but also a place to do research. Just to give you a little sense of types of research that our faculty do, we've just pulled a couple of things to highlight for you. We have faculty who do research across all different types of educational leadership, teaching and learning, counseling, educational psychology, but just a few who are really excited about working with our doctoral students. One is Ernesto Colin, who is our expert in Indigenous education. We have Magali Lavadens and William Perez, who are both experts in undocumented students and English language learners. Magali focuses mainly on K-12, where Dr. Perez focuses on higher education. And then our education law expert is Martha McCarthy, who's definitely an internationally known scholar in U.S. education law. So if you were to come to be a doctoral student with us, you would not only get to work with awesome faculty, but you would have a community of support. You'd have a dissertation chair that typically you choose. We have a one-to-one dissertation chair to student ratio. You'd also come in as part of a cohort. So our cohorts are typically 20 to 25 students. Like I said, mostly working professionals, working in K-12, higher ed, or other contexts. And coming in as part of a cohort is a really great experience because you have kind of a built-in support network of people who are going through the exact same thing as you at the same time you're doing it. So you would take all of your courses together with your cohort. As you get further along in the program, some of the courses kind of split you in half, so you have a smaller group for writing courses, for example, but same folks that you would travel through the program with. We also give a lot of individualized support. So you have access to your faculty, you have access to me, to Michaela, and to others throughout in the program and throughout the School of Education to provide support to you as you move through. I know Michaela and I spend a lot of time chatting with students and hearing from them what's going on at work and what's going on in their classes, and really enjoy being able to provide that kind of support for our students. We offer the program in 2 modalities, and so you may be here because you're interested in the online EDD, which is 100% online, or you may be here because you're interested in the on-campus EDD, which will be a hybrid of some online classes and some on-campus classes. The programs are very similar, other than modality. They're both 3-year programs, 46 credits each. Regardless of the program that you are admitted to, we give a generous doctoral scholarship for all of our admitted students. If you are in the online EDD, your classes will be 100% online. There'll be a balance of asynchronous and synchronous work. So you will have regular live meetings with your faculty and your cohort, in addition to work that you do independently on your own time. Our online EDD classes tend to meet on Tuesday evenings, where our on-campus EDD classes tend to meet on Monday evenings. We hold all of our classes in the evening because we know people are working, and we want to make sure that we don't compete with the work that you're doing during the day. Both our students in both our online and on-campus programs share their research nationally and internationally by attending conferences, submitting for publication. At LMU, we also have career and professional development support available for all students regardless of modality. So if you are looking to find a new job, if you are trying to develop some of those skills in interviewing or presenting or anything like that, we have support there. We have an awesome library that you will have access to either in person or online, and librarians who are there to assist students with their research. The difference between the 2 programs is start date. So our online EDD begins in our spring term, which is January. So we have a group that just began with us in January. The application deadline, if you're interested in the online EDD, will be the next deadline. That'll be in September 15th. If you're interested in our on-campus EDD, we're just finishing admissions for this year, so we have about we have a little bit more time until that comes around again. The next available cohort to start in the on-campus EDD would be in summer of 2023, so June 2023. And the application deadline for that will be January 25th, 2023. So you got some time to think about both of them, really, and prepare your application information. And Michaela, I think I'm going to hand it over to you. Oh, not yet. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Let me check. Michaela will tell you all about the application requirements and things that you need to do to fill out that application in just a second. All right, so you've learned a little bit about the program. I've mentioned before that we focus on helping you put theory into practice. One way that we do that is through the dissertation projects. So we've given you a couple of dissertation titles just so you can have a sense of the types of things that our students tend to write about. So our first is Principals as Partners in Change, Insights on Common Core State Standards Implementation, which was done in a public school setting. We have a higher ed oriented dissertation, Silencing the Critics, Teacher Preparation for Social Justice Matters, and somebody who is working in a Catholic school, forming and supporting lay Catholic elementary school principals as spiritual leaders. Students, when they're choosing dissertation topics, work closely with their faculty advisors and with the faculty in their classes to sort of hone the ideas and the things that they're passionate about. We encourage people to identify a problem of practice for their dissertation, so something that you're bumping up against in your everyday work that some research would help you address. So all of these examples here are things that these students were running into in their professional lives and decided to study for their dissertations. The person standing over on the left side of the slide is presenting at our research symposium, which is one of the highlights of the year for our doctoral students, our graduating students, and we're super excited because we get to bring it back this year in person. And this is where students prepare a poster presentation of their dissertation work, and others can kind of walk around, hear what they've done. We invite friends and family and all of the students from the program and have a really great time celebrating our graduating students. I mentioned a couple times that we're designed for working professionals. So the majority of our students are working full-time. So the way that we accommodate that is with our class schedule. As I mentioned, classes are in the evenings, and you have the option of the fully online program or the hybrid program where you'll have some face-to-face on-campus classes and some online. We have a scaffolded dissertation model that really breaks that big project down into smaller pieces, and you get support all along the way. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But for folks who are working full-time and often have families and other responsibilities as well, having that big project broken down and support all along the way is really essential to getting it done on time. Our faculty try to be super accessible because we realize that you're working, and so having a meeting during the day might not be possible, so most of our faculty are very willing to meet with students in the evenings, on weekends, are very accessible via email, and often will also just give you their cell phone number so you can get a hold of them anytime that you need them. Dissertation writing support. This is one of the hallmarks of this program, and really one of the reasons that we have about a 97% completion rate, which is really, really good for a doctoral program. And I attribute most of it to this dissertation writing support. So we scaffold the dissertation through writing and research methods courses. So you will take 3 research methods courses in your first year. The first one's called Situated Inquiry, where we learn about educational research, how to write a lit review, how to use the library, all of the things that you need to be successful in the program. You'll take a qualitative research class and a quantitative research class. So you get a lot of tools for doing different types of methodology. And then once you move into your second year, you start on our writing classes, and you will take a class that is dedicated to helping you design your proposal, your dissertation proposal, another one designed to help you finish writing the dissertation proposal, and then you'll take a data analysis class. And this is in addition to working with your chair to prepare those materials and get through your dissertation work. We have 3 benchmarks in the program, so these are the places where we sort of check in with you to see how you're doing, to hear about the work that you're doing, and to give you some feedback. The first is preliminary review, which takes place at the end of the first year. And I like to describe this as like your chance to put your flag in the ground of your dissertation topic. So it's your first chance to try out a dissertation topic and present it to some faculty to get feedback. The second benchmark is the dissertation proposal defense, which happens at the end of the second year, and then the final dissertation defense happens at the third year. We throw graduation on there because that's the celebration of getting past all of those benchmarks. At each of the benchmarks, you'll get lots of feedback from your faculty, and at the proposal defense and the final defense, also from a committee of people that you choose to help support you on the dissertation. You may be wondering what kind of classes you would be taking in the program. So here's a sketch of the curriculum that our students follow. It's the same for the online and the on-campus programs. So as I mentioned, year one, you take a lot of research methods classes, situated inquiry, qualitative and quantitative. You also take the first classes in the leadership core. So you'll take moral and ethical leadership, transformational leadership, and leadership for social justice and education. So you get a lot of theory through those classes. In the methods classes, we teach you how to apply that to practice. In the second year, you start working on your dissertation. So you spend a lot of your time writing, but you also finish up some of your content classes. So you'll take organizational theory, and then a couple of specific leadership in practice classes, contextualizing leadership in education, one about fiscal and human capital, and legal and policy issues in education. By the time you get to the third year, you're pretty much done with your classes and you're spending almost all of your time writing and finishing that dissertation. You have a couple of last classes, including educational change and innovation, which is kind of like a capstone class. Most of the classes, regardless of the year, are taught seminar style with a lot of active learning. You'll be expected to do a lot of reading and bring your thoughts and notes and ideas to class to discuss with your cohort mates. We do a lot of work in small groups, a lot of writing and discussion, so that you can pick apart that information that you're reading and apply it to what you're seeing in your everyday practice. You can also see those benchmarks that I was talking about laid out on this curriculum map, so you can see where those fall. All right, now I get to kick it over to Michaela to tell you about the application. I'm sure you're super excited to find out how to get yourself in the application queue for this program. So go ahead, Michaela.
Thank you so much, Becky. All right, so I'm sure you're all very excited to begin your application. So you're probably wondering what you need to apply. So first off, you need to have an earned master's degree. And we ask that you already have your degree conferred when you are applying. And the degree, it doesn't have to be in education, but it should be in a related field. You also need to have an undergraduate GPA of a 3.0 or higher and a graduate GPA of a 3.5 or higher. We are looking for experienced educational leaders who have at least 2 years of experience. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a current principal or superintendent, but you need to demonstrate educational leadership in some capacity in your context. And some good news for all of you is that we had waived our GRE requirement for all 2020 to 2022 applicants. So if you are applying for our online program and with the due date being in September, then you would not need to provide your GRE scores. So if you are going to start your application, LMU utilizes an online application through our application portal called Slate. So you would start your application by creating an online account, and you would need to upload a few pieces of materials in addition to filling out the online application. The first is your statement of purpose, and that is a 2 to 4 page essay. And you are asked to answer these 4 questions. And this statement of purpose is really your chance to make the case of why you are a good fit for the program and why the program is a good fit for you. And it's also an opportunity for you to advocate for how your experience demonstrates educational leadership. You also need to provide your current resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation. And we ask that these letters come from people who can really speak to your experience as an educational leader. One of the letters should be from your current supervisor, and the other letter can be from a former supervisor, a former faculty member, a colleague, a peer, whoever can speak best to your experience. You also need to provide transcripts from all of the colleges and universities that you have attended, LMU accepts both hard copy and electronic versions of transcripts. And I think most universities now do provide an option for you to request electronic, and it's faster, easier, and simpler. So you would just need to request one copy of all of your transcripts. So once the application is due, our admissions committee reviews all of the applications from cover to cover. As we say, we really take a holistic view in our applications admissions process. Each piece of the application is reviewed and really kind of evaluated equally. And we use this process to screen out a select group of candidates who we then invite to interview. And the interview process has been virtual the past few years, and you are invited to take place in a group interview with a panel of faculty, and then you also complete a timed writing sample based on a case study that you are sent to review. And after the interview process, we again then meet with our committee and select the candidates for admissions to accept. So the whole process from when you apply to when you interview to when you actually are notified of the decision is really only about 2 months. So it's a pretty fast process. And this is just kind of a public service announcement. So if you are interested in our online program, California has reciprocity agreements with the states currently listed on this slide to offer online education. So what that means is if your state of residence is not on this list, then if you were to get a degree from LMU, it would not be recognized in the state that you live in. It's all kind of very complicated, but for whatever reason, it's not just LMU, it's all higher education institutions in California. But the good news is that we are constantly working to add more states to this list. So if your state currently isn't on the list, feel free to email us at doctoral@lmu.edu, and we can check in with our liaison to see what the status is on that state. So again, if your state is not on this list, then you just should be advised that currently your degree would not be recognized in that state. So this is our admissions timeline. So kind of as I was saying before, the whole process takes about 2 months from when you submit your application to when you would actually be notified. So for the online program, the application deadline is coming up in September. You still have a good 6 months or so though before the application is due. The admissions interviews would take place in mid-October, with the decisions being released in mid-November before the holidays. We would then have a orientation for our new students in December, and then classes would start in early January of 2023. For the on-campus program, the application deadline isn't until January 25th of 2023, so you would have almost a whole year to prepare for that deadline. The interviews for that program are in mid-February of that year, and then the decisions would be released in late March to early April of 2023. Orientation takes place in mid to late June, and then classes start at the end of June. So you're probably wondering about the cost of the program. So the estimated total cost, so for the entire 3 years, is around $80,000. But the good news is that all students who are accepted into the program receive a very generous scholarship. And currently that scholarship knocks the total cost of tuition to around the $50,000-ish range, which is a lot more manageable and is very competitive with our local schools. And we also have ways to fund your degree outside of the doctoral program scholarship. The School of Education at LMU also offers some named scholarships from generous donors. We also have a scholarship available for those who teach in Catholic schools who are either teachers or administrators. Those are all subject to availability. And then the majority of our students do supplement their scholarships with a federal Stafford loan or a Graduate Plus loan. You can also apply for private loans through LMU. And while you are a student, any loans that you may be currently paying off will go into deferment, which is great. So you won't be paying your current loans while you are accruing more loans, basically. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the LMU Financial Aid Office. They are always happy to talk with you, respond to you, and to make a plan for how to finance your degree. And if you ever have any issues getting in touch with any of LMU's offices, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to make those connections as well. So kind of just to sum up what Becky said earlier, the programs are pretty much identical, except for the modality and then the admissions term. So if you are here to learn about the online program, the application deadline is in September 15th, and you would be starting classes in January. And if you're here about the on-campus program, then you have about a year to prepare that application. It's not due until January 25th. And just a point of note, we do not do rolling admissions. So if you were to apply early, you would not hear back any sooner than if you were to wait until the actual admissions deadline. But that being said, we do encourage all applicants to apply at least, a month in advance of the deadline, so that it gives time for all your transcripts to be delivered and added to your application, for your recommenders to supply your letters. Our committee begins reviewing the applications right after our deadline. So it really is important that your applications be complete at the time of the deadline. And this is just to make you aware of the sessions of today's open house that are following our session. So if you have, if you are interested in learning more about financial aid, the session that starts at 6 p.m. talks about that. And then the session at 6:30 is with the graduate students of LMU, which is an organization of LMU's graduate students, and they put on events. That they do things like monthly mixers. They do a graduate student summit every spring, where they invite graduate students to submit proposals of research that they have done in their classes, and just other kinds of fun things. So if you want to find out how you can kind of meet other students at LMU and kind of feel that community, then that would be a good session. And then if you are here from outside of the US and you want to learn more about what it means to be an international student, then the final session at 7 talks about that. And you can feel free to return to the Graduate Programs Open House website to log on to any of those sessions. So I'll pass it back to Becky now.
Thank you, Michaela. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. So hopefully that gave you a quick overview of the program, what we do, how to apply, answered some of the questions that you have, but I imagine that you have some other ones. So what I was thinking we could do is maybe stop sharing the slides so we can see one another. And I want to open it up for questions, but I thought first, we're not a huge group, so maybe if folks wanted to just maybe introduce yourself in the chat, that way we all know who we are and who's all here, and then we can open it up for some questions. I'll give you just a second to do that. And then when you're ready, if you have questions, you can either throw those in the chat, or you can use your reactions button to find your hand to raise, and then I can call on you from there. All right, Dominique, I see your hand.
Hi, thank
Hi,
you.
welcome.
Thank you for putting this together. It was super helpful. And thank you for being transparent about the cost. I really appreciate that. I am curious about coursework. So if we have an idea of a specialized like set of skills we want to learn in addition to like that would be helpful for our dissertation, are we allowed to like think about that in our curriculum and like how we design our time there?
Oh, that's a good question. What kinds of things are you thinking about?
So for example, I'm very interested in carceral education methods, and in particular, like trying to incubate a program for returning citizens, like when they get out of prison, like how does integration to the community look? But part of that is like addressing like the history of like the wealth gap. And so I might want to take like I don't know, a history class or like a finance class to get a stronger bearing in the language.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks for the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
So the program is designed, because it's only a 3-year program, it's a pretty tight curriculum. And right now we don't have the space in it for folks to go and take other classes officially within the curriculum. What I would probably recommend you do in that case is potentially work through extension or something like that to take those classes over the summer, somewhere, but it wouldn't necessarily feed into the program. But to make sure that you get that. The thing you could do, most of the assignments that you'll have in your classes will be things that you determine, right? So you have to write a paper, but you get to pick the topic. You're going to work on this project when you're doing research. In your methods classes, you get to pick the site that you're going to go and research. So you could work on some of those things through those assignments, and work with faculty in those areas that way.
That's helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure. What other questions do we have? Thank you for introducing yourself. I'm gonna read through those as well. It's great to have you all here. What other questions? I'm so sorry if I don't say your name correctly. Amna?
You said it correctly. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple questions. So the classes, like the online classes, I'm interested in the online program.
Okay.
What time do they start?
So the online classes are typically scheduled on Tuesdays. You take 2 classes at the same time each semester, except in the summer you take 1 and 1. We have 2 summer sessions at LMU, so you take 1 in the first summer and 1 in the second. During the fall and spring, you take 2 classes at a time. What we've been doing in the online program is trying to alternate who has a live class and who has an asynchronous week, so that you have 1 meeting per week most of the time. They take place usually between about 5 and 8 p.m. Pacific. I think I see Hawaii behind you. Is that where you are? No.
No, I'm actually in Whittier with you.
Oh, okay, got it.
But yeah, it's just a picture I took.
Okay, it's pretty.
I wish I was in Hawaii.
Yeah, so between 5 and 8 typically is when you would be in class. Technically, I think the block runs from like 4:30 to 9:30, but we try and just have you meet with 1 class, so it's a little bit more manageable. Otherwise, it's a lot of time on Zoom after a long day at work. So.
Thank you.
And we try to keep it to just 1 day.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And that was very helpful. The other question I had, so as an online cohort, are we still allowed to go to the library in person?
Yep, absolutely. You're welcome on campus. You will get a 1 card, which is our everything card at LMU. So you're welcome to go to events, to go to the library, to come work in the doctoral center, all of those things.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. What else? Dominique, do you have another question, or is your hand up from before?
Oh, you know what? Sorry.
That's okay. What else? other questions we can answer? As an on-campus cohort, what does this class schedule look like? So for the on-campus group, we're transitioning to a hybrid model for our on-campus programs because we've learned that people really liked having the flexibility of not having class in person every week. It works really well for working professionals. So what we are trying to get to is a place where you have like alternating weeks, a week on, a week off, on campus, off campus. The classes for the on-campus cohort meet on Monday nights, same block of time, right? So sometime between 4:30 and 9:30. But if we're doing the alternating thing, hopefully it would be a shorter period of time so that you have one class and then a different class alternating. We're figuring that out as we come out of COVID and we sort of learn what things look like. We're enjoying the opportunity to experiment with some of these things that we haven't done before. It's an exciting time for us. Great. Any other questions that we can answer? So great. I see lots of folks from different places. We have folks from LMU. We have folks from Catholic schools, public schools. Welcome, welcome. Is there funding for research? That's a good question. It depends, I guess is the answer. Sometimes if you're working on a project with faculty, the faculty will have grant funding that they are able to pay out of. For most of our students, when you're doing dissertation research, we're encouraging problems of practice. So we're trying to encourage you to do the research that is really linked to the work that you're doing every day. So potentially at your own site. And for the most part, students don't incur additional expenses doing their research. We are always happy, though, to help you explore opportunities for grants and for other support if you need it to do the research that you want to do. We have funding for you to go and present research. So if you wanted to go to a conference and present a paper from class or some of your dissertation research, we're able to fund students to do that. And we like to send students, the big conferences in education for us are AERA, which is the American Educational Research Association, and UCEA, which is the University Council on Educational Administration. So those are the big ed leadership conferences, and we like to send folks to those. Well, we must have done a very good job with the presentation if we've answered all your questions. Then I think if we've answered all the questions that you have, we can wrap it up here. Once again, if other things occur to you, I'm that person who leaves a meeting like this and then has 15 questions occur to me. Feel free to send an email. It's just doctoral@lmu.edu. That'll come to Michaela and to myself, and we'll be happy to get back to you with answers or set up a time to talk one-on-one. I'd be really happy to talk with you more or to see your application in an upcoming cohort. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us today.